My name is Steve Peterson. I'm the Vice President for Student Affairs here at Merrimack. It's my pleasure to tell you how pleased and proud we are to have had you here for the past 2 days. Isn't it amazing that all of you have been able to come together in one place? I'm hopeful that you have also, I'm hopeful that you've all had an opportunity to visit the gallery and to see the many things that have been collected there that are reflections of this particular period of time. I think we've about exhausted your energy, though, because the room has been full most of the day. But we felt like one last session would be helpful to provide sort of a retrospective on the last 2 days, because you've heard a lot of thoughts, a lot of ideas, a lot of opinions, a lot of viewpoints about this particular period in our history. And we've asked 5 individuals to just provide a short synopsis of some of the things that they've heard over the course of the last 2 days, and then to give you a chance for any last questions that you might want to ask of the panelists. So if the panelists would come forward, I think they all know who they are. I'll introduce them briefly. They are all folks that you have met during the course of the last 2 days. Yesterday you heard from Everhard Pure, who, as you may know, is a retired marketing and sales executive with a bachelor's degree from the Ohio State University and a master's in business administration from the University of Wisconsin. You also heard yesterday from Tom Sunic, who is a former U.S. professor. He's a PhD in political science. He's a published author. He's a Croatian diplomat. He's a translator of French and English and Croatian. Today you heard from Rudolf Pueschel. He was a research scientist with NASA, and he's a researcher and author on the Czechoslovakian nation in regards to the ethnic German cleansing movement. You also heard today from Dr. Kearn Schemm, who is a lawyer, a U.S. diplomat, a human rights activist, and vice president of the German World Alliance. And I also want to make sure that you know Professor John Esper from our own political science department here at Merrimack. He is a member of the panel, but he is also going to facilitate the panel this afternoon. And in deference to the number of hours that you have all been sitting, we'll try to keep this relatively brief. We'll give each of the panelists an opportunity to do a quick statement and give any of you an opportunity to ask any last questions. We're going to try to wrap up by 4:30, so we'll hold them to that. Thanks again for being here. We're delighted to have all of you at Merrimack.
Dr. Peterson mentioned, there's probably an infinite number of ways to conduct a panel. Again, the idea is to sort of bring things full circle.
He's got to get some more chairs.
Okay, sorry. Actually, I probably do not need a seat. Infinite number of ways to conduct a panel. What we're looking at is a way to bring things full circle. I don't care what kind of conference it is. There are always questions floating out there that you'd like to ask me, these things that need to be clarified. Hopefully that's what we'll be doing now in the next hour and 15 minutes. As, again, Dr. Peterson mentioned, I think a good place to start. Everyone will have an opportunity to ask questions and ask for any clarifications and, of course, maybe comments. I think first and foremost, I'd like to have each member on the stage maybe say a few words. It's not required, of course, but if there's anything sort of in conclusion you'd like to draw based upon not only your own experiences, your own research, but also what we've heard as well as witnessed in the past 2 days. In no particular order, would someone like to volunteer to be first right now?
Well, I presented the story of the internment of Germans in World War II right here in the United States of America. And I presented it on the basis of the legalities involved rather than the physical atrocities you heard about from the Donauschwaben in their areas. By far, those stories were horrendous. The people, I don't know how they survived all this, and I think about the internment Germans on many occasions and in all kinds of fora, either universities, even in public libraries. I've lectured with a Traces Museum about it and on what they call a museum tour. And I was with Dr. Schemm on Ellis Island on December 8th, where internment of Germans began. And I just want you to remember that there were 60,000 Germans that were arrested according to the Justice Department. According to an archivist at the National Archives, about 50% of those that received hearings were actually interned. But those numbers are kind of squishy. And we are trying to, for the last 10 years, they have enacted in Congress the Wartime Treatment Studies Act, which is sponsored by, among others, Senator Feingold and Senator Grassley. And I'd like to thank everybody who heard my presentation, and particularly I'd like to thank the hospitality of this great institution right here. But there's one mistake. I did not go to Ohio State, which is a football school. I went to Ohio University at Athens, Ohio.
I am Kearn Schemm. I spoke today earlier. I unfortunately missed the events yesterday. Time didn't allow me to get out as early as I would like to. I'm also very thankful to this university and the whole community, and most of all to Ann Morrison, who is a piece of gold, worth gold. She's pulled this event together. It's incredible. Although I have been a student of the events of the last 70 years as they've impacted on German Americans and Germans around the world, it never fails to impress me what I don't know. I'm always thankful to be in a venue like this where I'm able to hear some of the survivors, some of the people who experienced it, tell their stories, or tell experts tell the broader picture so that we get a better idea. The more I hear, the more convinced I am that the wars, both World War I and World War II, were not against the German government, they were against Germans. And that those, at least the psychological end of that war is yet to end. And the only way we can end is if we pull together and take action and publicize what happened every place and seek to get people online and understanding that Germans are people too and have rights to it.
Thank you. I'm Tomislav Sunic, and I'll try to summarize in 2 words what I already said yesterday. First and foremost, I'd like to thank again our host, Ann Morrison, and of course, Mr. Preston, and the entire staff for setting up this venue. Basically, I raised a rhetorical question yesterday. When we talk about genocide, and specifically about the genocide against the Germans, we have to ask ourselves the question, well, what happens to the culprits? Where are they? Well, I myself, given the fact that I had a privilege, with that way of living in communist Yugoslavia for a good portion of my life, and living in the capitalist West for a portion of my life, well, I can tell you in Zagreb, in Croatia itself, in Eastern Europe, literally, not metaphorically, I'm meeting people, call them communist hacks, or the liberals. Even my dad, who was sentenced to 4 years in prison, was adopted by 15 senators in 1985. Senator Bill was on against International. Upon my return to Croatia in 1993, I was literally meeting